What is up, everyone? The developers landing the best iOS roles right now are not the ones who know SwiftUI the best, and if you have spent the last 2 years going deep on it, that might be uncomfortable to hear. They are not the ones who can recite every modifier from memory, or who have the cleanest architecture in their portfolio. AI has quietly made that kind of knowledge cheaper, and the market has noticed. They are the ones who can build end-to-end. They ship a feature, front to back, without waiting on a backend team. They design the API contract, debug with proxies like Charles or Proxyman, write the Swift client, handle concurrency correctly with structured async, await, and actors, instrument the full request lifecycle in instruments, and ship through a real CICD pipeline, signed, tested, and deployed without waiting on anyone else. And increasingly, they are doing a lot of that in collaboration with AI coding agents. That is the full-stack mobile engineer. And in 2026, this profile is not a niche anymore. It is the expectation at every high-growth company that cannot afford to silo their teams. In this video, I am going to break down exactly what full-stack mobile engineering looks like. I will cover the 3 technical layers every full-stack mobile engineer owns, the architecture decisions that connect them, and the specific skills you need to get there. And I want to be direct about something. The reason this is achievable now in a way it was not 3 years ago is that AI tools have changed how fast you can learn across unfamiliar territory. You no longer need a back-end engineer sitting next to you to start owning that layer. You need the right mental model and the discipline to build deliberately. If that is the kind of engineering content you want more of, subscribe. This channel is for developers who are building seriously. Let us get into it. The simplest mental model I can give you is 3 layers. A traditional iOS developer owns Layer 1. A full-stack mobile engineer owns all 3. Layer 1 is the client. SwiftUI, UIKit, navigation, state management, offline handling. This is the craft most iOS developers have spent years on. Layer 2 is backend and data. This is where most iOS developers stop, and where the gap between a good engineer and a complete one opens up. Understanding how REST contracts are designed, not just consumed, changes how you build on the client. Knowing GraphQL, WebSocket behavior, and auth flows at the protocol level means you stop compensating on the iOS side for decisions that should have been made at the contract level. Knowing how these work at the protocol level lets you write network layers that are actually resilient. You stop making decisions that create unintended back-end coupling. This does not mean you are running distributed infrastructure solo. It means you can spin up a service, design a real data model, write endpoints your iOS app actually consumes, and get it deployed in a state a team can build on. In 2026, if you want to stay in Swift end-to-end, Vapor is the most battle-tested option. It has a mature ecosystem, strong community support, and enough production deployments behind it that you can find real answers when things break. Hummingbird is the leaner alternative, less abstraction, closer to the metal, and worth reaching for if you want something lighter and more composable than Vapor's full framework approach. Supabase if you want a real Postgres backend with auth, storage, and edge functions without managing servers. It pairs cleanly with a Swift client, and the local development experience is solid. Firebase if your app is heavily real-time and you want Google's infrastructure handling scale. A lightweight Node.js layer with Express or Hano if the team already lives in that ecosystem, and iteration speed matters more than type safety end-to-end. Go if raw performance and concurrency are the constraint. Its HTTP primitives are minimal, and the compiled output is fast. And increasingly, serverless runtimes like Cloudflare Workers or AWS Lambda are showing up in mobile backends where you want near-zero cold starts and global edge distribution without provisioning anything. The technology is a detail. What matters is the discipline underneath it, knowing how to design a data model that does not need to be rewritten 6 months later, how to version a schema without breaking your existing clients, and how to write an API contract that does not let server implementation details bleed into your iOS layer. That boundary is where most full-stack mobile engineers earn their keep. Layer 3 is CI/CD and delivery, not DevOps, ownership. You understand what happens to your code after it leaves your machine, and you can build that pipeline yourself. Xcode Cloud for native App Store, Connect integration. GitHub Actions for flexibility. Bitrise for dedicated mobile CI across iOS and Android. Fastlane as the automation layer underneath all of it. Signing, test flight uploads, and releases handled in a way that is repeatable and scriptable. Remember, the skill is not knowing everything. The skill is owning the full request lifecycle without needing someone else to unblock you. Let's address AI. I'm seeing developers use LLMs as accelerators across all 3 layers, not just to generate entire features blindly. On the client side, boilerplate, test scaffolding, and accessibility audits. Things that eat time but don't require architectural judgment. On the API side, generating mock servers, open API specs, and codable models. These are real-time savings that let you move across the stack faster. Where it fails is when you treat the output as a final answer. You still have to understand the architecture to evaluate what it produced. The judgment layer is yours. When you understand the full stack, your architecture gets cleaner. You stop over-engineering the client to compensate for a poorly designed API. I'm seeing successful setups use features as packages, hard boundaries between logic and UI, and async await protecting mutable state through actors. Your data model shouldn't bleed into your API, and your API shouldn't dictate your UI. The full-stack engineer makes trade-offs with full context. Most developers optimize at one layer, but the high-impact engineers in 2026 are the ones who can solve a bug across network logs, database queries, and the view layer. That capability is not about being a generalist. It's about having a complete mental model. Once you have that, AI becomes a force multiplier. Debug the full round trip. That single exercise teaches you more about network resilience and auth flows than months of reading. The path forward is straightforward. Start with the API layer. Pick any backend technology that makes sense for your context. Vapor if you want to stay in Swift, Supabase if you want something running fast, Node.js if you already know JavaScript. Build the backend for something you already have. Connect your iOS app to localhost and debug the full round trip yourself. Second, get rigorous about your concurrency model. Structured concurrency is deep. Actors, task cancellation, and sendability aren't edge cases. They're what keeps your app stable under real conditions. Moving to full stack means you can no longer ignore data races or thread safety. Third, build at least one CI/CD pipeline from scratch. Understand the signing, the environment, and the artifact so that when production breaks, you can diagnose it yourself. GitHub Actions is a great start, but understand the whole lifecycle. The full-stack mobile engineer is not a mythical unicorn, and it is not a title you apply for. It is a capability you build deliberately, one layer at a time. And once you have it, the nature of the work changes completely. You stop waiting on other people to unblock you. You stop shipping features you do not fully understand. You own the entire system, from the SwiftUI view down to the database row. And that ownership is where the most interesting problems live and where the most impactful engineers operate in 2026. If this gave you a shift in how you are thinking about your growth as an engineer, subscribe. New content every week, built for developers who are taking this seriously. If you are working on a real iOS product and you want senior-level guidance on architecture, scaling, or delivery, come find me at tonytrejo.com and let us talk about what you are building. And if you want to go deeper on anything covered in this video, the next one is already waiting for you. See you there.